Your time. Let me see. You know I gotta be professional. Good. He's good. He's good. Let me see. Let me see if it's is it coming up? All right. Show in stream. Okay. All right. You almost there. You
Tell
almost.
Rob, tell Rob I said what's up too.
I will. I'm trying to get him to come down to say what's up. But he said he's looking like Wolfman Jack.
Hello.
he said he said he doesn't want to come. He don't want to come down.
Look, she can't find a
I
drink.
can't find my drink.
Why can't you find your drink?
I'm gonna make another one. It's not upstairs now. Ah, it's behind my computer screen.
Oh, I know. Let me turn this down. Mute. Okay. Yay! Yeah, he said he don't want to come down. He don't. He says he wants to. Yeah, you know him. He's a cornball sometimes.
My hair's you're looking all wonderful.
Listen, if I take this hat off, it's a whole.
Hey.
Listen, Africa, honey, you know how it is.
Rob don't want to come down because he's feeling like Wolfman.
I heard her.
I'm like, please.
I know he's so corny. He's upstairs. Anyway, how y'all doing?
I've been scratching myself.
What?
I've been scratching myself.
Oh, I was like, what?
What?
That's not right.
Yes.
Drink, Kiki.
Huh?
Where's your drink so we can Kiki?
So we can Kiki. Kiki.
Yes, ma'am.
Cheers to you.
Cheers to you guys. Thank you. Thank you. So what's going on with the Blanchard family? What's happening?
You first.
No, we're trying to survive this pandemic. You know, I mean, it's an unusual time. It's an unprecedented moment in our history. At the same time, it's a weird kind of existence because, you know, you're feeling a lot of pain for people who are losing loved ones. I've lost friends and mentors, and you know, it's just been hard. But at the same time, there's a beautiful side to it in that our girls are here. You know, we've been having them around. It's been beautiful having them here. We've been creating a lot of beautiful family moments, just like playing cards, exercise, hanging out on the bayou, just doing things like that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's truly a mixed bag of tricks. I mean, you know, at one point we were watching the news every day, just trying to stay up on what's going on. But
now we limit ourselves.
Yeah, we have to limit ourselves to that.
Right.
Yeah. I think the other thing great that's happened is that we connect with friends that maybe you've taken for granted, like, oh, I'm going to see them in a couple of weeks, or I'll see them in a couple of months. And it's like, you know what? No, now let's connect now. Let's see everyone or do whatever we can to just touch bases, you know?
Yes, absolutely. I was having the same thing. I was like, all the people that I've been thinking about, you know, and just was like, okay, I'll call them later.
Yeah.
An excuse now. I have to call them and, you know, and want to call them, you know?
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, too, is that you need to check in with people because you don't know what's going on. You know, I found out from a friend of mine, the brother of a friend of mine that I went to school with, that she lost her battle with the virus on Facebook, you know, and that was kind of a hard thing, you know, to deal with because I guess what's hard about it is that she was a very pleasant person, and you know, it's one of those moments where you realize this virus doesn't discriminate, doesn't have, you know, any pointed direction of where it's going. You know, everybody's acceptable, and to hear that she lost the battle, you know, was really heartbreaking, man, because like I said, she was a sweet person and a brother. They're all cool people. And it just reminds you that, you know, if somebody comes across your mind, check in with them now if you can.
Exactly. Wait. No excuses. Now we don't have anywhere to go and we don't have any.
I know.
Nowhere to go. I know my dad, you know, he lives in the city in Philly. And I often I always think like I got to go see him, but then I'm like, well, he's actually in that group that, you know, you're not supposed to, you know, go see them. And, you know, it's tough because he's high risk and, you know, and drop some things off to him the other day. And I was like, I wanted to hug him, like, and I wanted to like, but I was like, no, I can't, because it would be heartbreaking if,
I know.
You know, I was asymptomatic or something like that. And so many people are just struggling, like the connection. You forget how important it is just to touch somebody, you know?
Yeah.
Please tell him I said hi. That is my dude. That's one of the coolest dudes on the planet. And if he's watching right now, I'm like, what up, dude?
I'm going to tell him, you know, I'm going to let him see the replay, because he asked me about you guys. He was like, how's Robin? And
but you know, it's funny when you talk about not being able to touch people. I had to go visit my mom, same kind of thing. I had to talk to her through a glass door. And I also have a brand new grandson that I haven't been able to see.
Yeah. Oh, you haven't seen him?
Well, I saw him. I saw him when he was first born, because I was there. I went back out to LA, but I haven't seen him since, you know. So I've been getting videos and pictures, and man, a little fella, I call him Big Fella, because he was a big rascal when he was born.
Yeah, he is gorgeous. I saw a picture of him because I'm friends with your son.
Oh, okay, right.
Mm-hmm. He's a handsome something. Both of them are.
Well, look, that was the other thing. So the older grandson came over, because we have that huge deck in the back, so we practice social distancing, keeping everybody apart. But my daughter Sydney wanted to give him a hug so bad, and we just it's just strange times we're living in right now.
Yeah. My niece joined us, Nina, and Nina said, hi, Karen.
Tell me, said hi.
Same thing though with Nina. Nina came over with her family last weekend or
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, maybe 2 weeks ago. She's just a mile and a half away from us.
Right.
But when she comes, it feels like, you know, you still haven't really gotten that proper connection that you like to give people, the hugs and everything, you know?
Of course, exactly. Has that inspired you guys artistically to like create something out of this moment, or is it just too soon?
I don't know if it's too soon. I mean, I had a moment where an idea popped in my head and I jotted it down before I would forget it. And I'm probably going to go back to it later on, you know. No, I'll go back to it. But the thing is, I'm blessed to be one of the few people that have work. So I have other things that I have to finish, you know.
Right.
But I'm trying to allow this moment to dictate whatever that should be. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to or anything like that, because part of this is still the unbelievable circumstances of which we're living in. It's just hard to believe when you wake up and you see the numbers of people who have died. You know, it's hard to believe. And then you see the lack of leadership in our country in terms of how to deal with this and testing and everything. It's just, I have to get past all of that before anything else can happen, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, November can't come fast enough, right?
What about you? I know.
Yeah. I mean, I've been already, I think I've had like several projects that I really want to do, that I really want to curate, and they've been kind of sitting off to the side. And now I have the actual time to focus on that. I want to tell a lot of stories. I was telling Robin the other day, I was like, I always feel like, you know, of course I want to tell our stories and talk about our history, but I always feel like, you know, Black queer women, you never hear about their stories, and no one ever, particularly you don't even sing about those things. And I've just been reading so much fascinating stories.
Tell him, feel comfortable telling him now? I forgot to tell him. One, or if you want to wait. Or see if you can have that offline.
I'm reading this book right now.
Wayward Lives, Beautiful Experiment.
It's by Saidiya Hartman.
Okay.
And there's so many incredible stories of Black women during the time of the Harlem Renaissance, where I don't want to tell too much because I don't want somebody to steal my story.
I know, right? That's why I said, should we do this offline?
I know, but anyway, you know, basically it talks about the sexual revolution during the Harlem Renaissance and how Black women pushed the envelope on having very fluid relationships, fluid experiment. It was a whole experiment. That's why it's called Beautiful Experiments. Anyway,
Wow.
can we do something, please, please, please?
Oh, come on now.
I know. All right.
You don't even have to pick up the phone. Just get your fingers working. Just
you know I do. You know I get
know. That's why I said it. I know.
Yes.
Got the quickest fingers on the East Coast.
Listen, only second to Robbie. Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit. Tell everybody a little bit about how you got into music. I mean, you know, you're a rock star, you're a superstar. And I remember the first time we met, I like knew of you, of course. I didn't have the jazz background, but I like I said, I knew your sound because I was such an, you know, Spike Lee movie fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I put my hand out and you looked at me like, what is wrong with you, girl?
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, the way you sang and performed that night, I'm like, you better come over and give me a hug. You brought down the house. What are you talking about? It's like,
I know, but I mean, that's not how you meet
people. No, but you know, I'm from New Orleans. I'm from the South, and you know, your performance that night was so amazing, so warm, and so inviting. There was no way in the world I was just gonna walk up to you and just go, "Hi, how are you doing? My name is Terence Blanchard."
I'm the composer.
Right.
Right. Well, that's because you know, not in all the opera people, you know.
Yeah. No. So it was great. You know, it's the weird thing about being in opera for me is that I feel like my life is coming full circle because I started off in a household where my father loved opera and he he wanted to be a baritone. Well, he was a baritone, but he wanted to be an opera singer for many years, you know. And my father was much older when he had me, so he was born, you know, in the early part of the century. So he wasn't getting any opportunities to sing in performances, even though there was a guy by the name of Osceola Blanchard who taught Black men here in New Orleans opera. You know? And a lot of those guys, when I was a kid, I thought they were crazy, man, because, you know, they would go to these rehearsals every Wednesday night to just rehearse on and do these recitals. Well, that had an impact on me, so I wanted to learn how to play music, and I would sit at the piano and just bang out stuff. So I started playing piano when I was 5 years old. But then, look, I'm living in New Orleans, and I'm hearing all of the music in the streets, you know, the instrumental jazz music, you know, all of the stuff in the clubs. And then that started to pique my interest, too. And there was a guy named Alvin Alcorn who came to my elementary school and gave a demonstration. And when I heard him play, I said, man, I want to do that. So then I started to pick up the trumpet. But you get a kick out of this. I know your dad will get a kick out of this. So I'm in elementary school in 4th grade, and I go home and I said, Dad, I want to play the trumpet. And what made that funny was my dad had just rented a piano for me to have in the house. So he wasn't too happy.
I'm sure.
My dad forgot about his religion that day.
I'm sure you have to on occasion, Daddy.
Now that I'm a parent, of course, yeah. Try to say you're not going to go there, but it happens.
Of course.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, the wild thing about working with you and all of those other great voices, man, I get emotional at times because it brings me back to my childhood of what I heard around me growing up. You know? And I remember doing those workshops with you and Adam and all of those great voices, you know.
Yes.
I was sitting there just in amazement, you know, and I'm sitting there going, wow, I know my dad is looking down on this, you know, telling me, I told you.
See? Yeah, I'm sure he is. I know he is. I know he was all over everything, all over Champion, all over Fire. I mean, I feel so tremendously honored and blessed to have done both of your pieces. Yeah. Just by luck, I got to do Champion. Like,
isn't that incredible, though, Karen?
That's
yeah, we've had great times.
But that's that's the reason why I had to give you a hug, girl, at night, because you came on and did Champion, and I didn't know you. And when I heard you sing, I went, "Oh my God!" and the beautiful thing about it is, like, you know, we've had this professional relationship, but it's turned into a family relationship as well. You know, like I had to beat you and Rob out of my house that night when y'all came in.
How much fun was that?
That was amazing. You sure did, because we were not ready to leave. We were gonna be like, well, we should just stay.
We started to prepare to run upstairs for y'all, man. Said, look, just go on upstairs and just cool out and just let it go.
Okay, next time we've been trying to get down there, and it's
Thanksgiving. We missed you all for Thanksgiving, so
I know.
Yeah.
Me, I'm always ready to go because that's the life, right?
Yeah.
That went upstairs.
You know who's here now? We were just talking about you, CCH Pounder.
Yeah, she's on the deck watching the sunset, and I looked at her. I was like, "Oh my God, I've got 15 minutes. I got to hurry up and go inside. Karen's having a podcast."
Yes. Tell her that I want her on. I would love to hear her.
I will. Definitely.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing. I remember she got me together, but I'm gonna wait until she comes on to Kiki Convos to let everybody know that she got me together. When she told me to get myself together. I'm gonna wait for that. You remember?
Yeah, I do.
She said, "We had so much fun at the restaurant." I said, "Yeah, we did. We had a great time." I think that was one of the longest lunches because they left and you, Rob, and I stayed for like a couple of more hours and a couple more bottles of champagne.
We certainly did. And you raced us to the airport in like 18 minutes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I was shocked. I was like, I can't believe we got here that fast. Great. Oh my gosh, crazy. So anyway, I want to talk a little bit about, of course, how you got started. Oh, before I forget, you've been on my mind heavy because the jazz world has lost so many tremendous artists. And every time you guys had a loss, I just kept thinking about you guys, like, how in the world? I mean, I can only imagine, like, for the opera world, if we had lost so many giants, it would be,
It's hard. It's really hard because it's one of those things where you look to somebody or something and you can't. When I heard Wallace Roney had passed, I was the first one. And Wallace was a contemporary of mine from Philly, and that broke me up because that made this whole thing real to me. And the next was Ellis.
Right.
When I found out that Ellis had passed, Branford had texted me, and I was staying in contact with him just to see what was going on. And I knew he was hurt because he just texted me, "It's over." That's all he said. And I got angry. I got angry because, this man still had a lot to offer. A lot of people. You know what I mean? He was a great mentor and a great teacher. And he was that type of person. I don't know you have those in your life, that constant, that person that whenever you see them, they're always going to be pleasant. They're always going to be supportive. And if you need them, they'll be there. You know what I mean?
And they're always asking, "What are you working on?
What are you working on?
What are you doing?" So they're always trying to uplift you. So they always have questions about where you are in your art.
As a matter of fact, when you guys did Champion in New Orleans, he was sitting out in the audience, man, like he was my daddy.
Yeah.
His chest was poking out just as big. Yeah, I mean, and then I don't know if you remember.
He came to the house after.
He came to the house after.
The after party. He was
by the piano.
Yep, he sure
all
did.
Night long. Him and Roger Dickinson, who was my other mentor.
Yes.
Those two guys were contemporaries, and both of them were there at the performance.
Yeah.
So to lose a person like that in your life is it's hard. It's humbling. You feel grateful for the time that you had, but you also feel like this thing was cut short.
Yeah.
You want so many other kids to experience with that person what you experienced with him.
Yes.
So
yeah.
It's been a rough road, and I think that's the reason why I'm so upset at leadership behind the way that they're dealing with this, because this is real life, man. This has got nothing to do with politics. It's got nothing to do with numbers or any of that madness. You know what I mean? This is real life. People are losing loved ones, people are losing family members, and we don't know when this is going to end. We don't know when this is going to stop. People are talking about opening up these states right now. It really doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Me and Robin and myself, we drove around New Orleans last night, man, and it was depressing because it's a ghost town.
It's a ghost town here.
Really?
Like, boarded up shops, boarded up homes, boarded up everything.
Oh, wow.
They're just boarded up.
And that's, I mean, this is prime time for people to travel
Oh
to
my
New
gosh,
Jazz Fest.
Yeah, Jazz Fest.
Right. It got canceled.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I was coming from a bike ride. As soon as I pulled into the front of the house on my bike, of course, I was winded.
Right. Come on, Terence. Don't let me get you.
But this guy pulls up in his car and he goes, "Hey, man, which weekend would you have been playing?" I said, "Oh, the second weekend." He goes, "Yeah, well, we're going to do something at the house. We're going to have crawfish. We're going to have like po' boys." And we just found out today that there have been people at the festival grounds hanging out, having like their own little party.
Well, that's the spirit, right, of New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
But that's not, you ain't supposed to do that, right?
It ain't safe.
No, it's not safe.
Right.
It ain't safe.
Yeah.
Wow.
We need people to be safe because we want to get through this. We want to get through this thing as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, my friend of mine told me that in South Korea, they're already in the theaters having shows, but like they get tested constantly.
Yeah.
People in the show, and it's like a whole thing, but the show must go on. And I'm like, what does that mean for?
But look at what, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think though that the new paradigm for us is going to be that concert tickets are going to be more money.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to be more money because audiences will have to be, downsized.
Right.
So instead of being every seat, will probably be every other seat.
Right.
It will probably be like a pyramid formation so that you don't have anyone in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And two people will be behind you, but on either side of you, probably at like 4 to 6 feet.
Right. Wow.
So a venue that's 2,500 will quickly get reduced to like 1,000 or 1,200. And then the ticket prices are going to have to go up to compensate.
Yeah.
I mean,
but the key thing that you said earlier was they are constantly getting tested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we don't have anyone like greeting us at our job to give us the thermal testing so that when you walk into, they're not letting people walk into grocery stores and cafes.
No.
Without thermal testing. Even I think certain European countries, we're behind on this one. I know that we love to say that we're like the greatest, but for this, we have shown that we're not so great.
No, and in multiple ways, and not just the ways that everybody wants to acknowledge, but the ways that people don't want to say exactly.
Yeah.
How things are going down. But my friend Nicole Heaston, who's a fabulous soprano, she was just saying like for opera, it'll mean smaller theaters will be better for opera.
Sure.
But, it's so tricky.
For jazz also. However, this is what I want you to think about because I'm the business side of this. You're going to have smaller audiences and they're going to try to give you less money. And that's going to be the fight. You're going to have to say, all right, smaller audiences, but you've increased the ticket prices. So don't diminish my worth.
Absolutely.
That's the next phases of this. If people think, oh, we're just going to do this and that's all we need for our box office numbers. And it's like, okay, maybe, but make sure that we're on a line item also. Don't forget about the performers.
Talk about what's happening now.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, I've had that conversation with you just about, how crazy it is with people wanting everyone to do something, to do performances for free.
Right. Mm-hmm.
In the first couple of weeks, I was all for it, and there are a couple of people like Opera Theater St. Louis. Mm-hmm. If they called today and asked Terence to do something for them, absolutely. Mm-hmm. They've given so much to us, The Met, if they called, absolutely, because they wanted to present him. Detroit Symphony Orchestra. There's certain venues that we owe a debt of gratitude to, and we would do anything for them. But then there are others that are still trying to, take advantage of the situation by asking for free art.
People haven't called in a while, is what she's trying to say.
Who are saying, "Oh, will you help us fundraise?" And of course we will.
Yes.
But
yes.
remember that not Terence, because he's doing extremely well. But if you play a performance of his band, give something to his band.
Yes, absolutely.
Or give us the opportunity to say, thank you for offering to give, Terrence money, but can we put that money toward, a charity that we're supporting, like to the food bank here? But don't just make the assumption that because we're in a pandemic, everything is a free for all. It just can't be.
It just can't be. Did you see the thing about Facebook? They're starting to I guess you're giving you the option to charge people for your streaming.
And that's absolutely what should happen. There are other platforms that are coming along that are going to help you, monetize your art, which is wonderful. It needs to happen. It really does.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Because the bills get paid. Mr. Visa, Mr. Mortgage, and everybody else is like, that's cute that you want to do that.
Yeah.
I heard a knock at the door and thought it was Uber Eats, but it was the bills.
What?
Really, Terrence, you're so corny. He's so corny. Don't laugh at him, Karen.
Okay.
I thought it was my Indian food. They said, excuse me, hello.
Okay. Oh, okay. Right. Nothing for free. Robin, talk a little bit about your experience, like how you got into the jazz world and how you got into managing, because I think a lot of people don't know. Please. Because they're shouting you out on the stream. They're like, yes, Miss Robin, yes.
Oh, that's so funny. I started out, studying journalism and foreign policy of the Middle East. And then I was growing up in Washington, D.C. I always had this idea that I would be a diplomat. I really wanted to be a diplomat.
Really?
Yeah, I did. And so I did, my 5 years at the University of Maryland and came out and really couldn't get a job. So a friend of mine was DJing at Howard University's WHUR. And he would ask me to come and to start and I loved music always because of my mom. My mom had music in the house, cooking. She would just take a break sometimes. She was a housewife. And she would take a break and go sit in the living room and put on a jazz album or put on a country album or put on a gospel album.
Yeah.
So I just always loved music. So I kept lamenting to my friend, I am so tired. I can't find a job. And I was doing internships, 2020, Nightline, ABC News. I was just doing internships, the Washington Post. And I was like, I got to get paid. This is crazy.
Yeah.
So he said, well, I had done 4 years at the National Academy of Sciences as an editor. So he said, well, you love music. Why don't you get a job in the music industry? And I was like, that's not really a job. It's so much fun. How's this really a job? And so I did one internship with A&M Records in the Mid-Atlantic office in DC, outside of DC. And then, I had a bad experience with one of my superiors. I wanted a job in New York. And he told me that the only way I would get the job is if I came through him. And I was like, screw you. So I applied. I went and I applied for the job without any references at all. I went to the national office and they were like, oh, you're never going to get a job in the national office. You don't have any references. You don't have really great experience. And so I got it.
They don't know my boo.
That's right. Listen, she got me together too.
Stop it.
Be here at this time. Yes.
Yeah, buddy.
I was there.
Yeah, no. So I worked at Sony Music And that's where I met Terrence. And we worked together for a couple of years there. And then I wanted to start my own management company. And Branford was actually a friend of mine and said, "Oh, I've got a friend that's looking for management." And he's the one that introduced us to work together. So
Wow.
I was working with him for years before one day I kind of took the blinders off and said, "He's kind of nice.
Yeah.
He's
Oh.
okay. He's okay." Stop it. Yeah. So that's how. And I negotiate the first contract I ever did for him was Mo Better Blues. And
Wow.
it's just been ever since.
Ever since. That's incredible. Go ahead, Robin. First
Oh,
project, No Better Blues. Terrence,
cheers to
you're
you,
good. You're
Kiki.
very good. Yes. Cheers.
Cheers to everyone on this.
Mhm. I love it. I'm glad you mentioned Mo Better Blues because I wanted to talk about how, okay, so in this whole day and age that we're in, especially with the COVID-19, so reality of a lot of performers is that they're gonna have to transition somehow into doing other things, right? And they're going to have to transition their mindset into thinking about juggling multiple businesses, having multiple streams of income. These
Definitely.
are these are not things that they teach you in school. These are not things that people talk about. So I wanted to talk a little bit about transitioning from being like a solo jazz artist or in an ensemble to film scoring that you do so incredibly beautiful, Terrence. And Robin as well, managing multiple disciplines in one artist, as well. So speak about that because I think it's important for particularly singers like myself and other people to understand that.
You know what I think it is, Karen? I think it's one or two things. Either you can't be afraid or you got to be too stupid to know better to jump into new arenas.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When I was a kid, Roger Dickinson, the guy that I was talking to you about, he was my composition teacher. And he always encouraged me to visualize my future. He would actually make me answer the question, what do you see yourself doing 10 years from now? And we would sit down and kind of have like those mentoring sessions where I didn't realize it, but he was having me meditate at the time, on where my career would go. So I've always had an open mind about things. So even though I wanted to be a performing artist, when opportunities came along that needed me to compose, I jumped at the chance. So, I mean, the thing with Spike just happened by accident. I was just hired as a session musician, and we took a break, and I started playing the piano, playing a piece that I was writing for my first solo project for Columbia Records. And Spike came along and said, "Well, what is that?" And I said, "It's a tune I'm writing for the kids that were massacred in South Africa. It's called Sing Soweto." And then he goes, "I like it." He says, "Man, you think I could use it in the film?" And I said, "Sure." So we recorded it just as a solo trumpet piece, right? And I thought I was done at that moment. And then Spike took it back to the editing room. They shot the scene with Denzel. And he kept saying that they needed some more. It wasn't full enough. He said, "So you think you can write a string arrangement for it?" And I lied, and I said, "Sure." That was one of the moments in time where you sit there and you go, either I'm going to jump across this or I'm going to run away.
Yes.
And I called Roger. Right after. Even the same thing happened when Jim Robinson asked me to do the opera. I always called Roger. And I called him and I said, "Roger, this guy wants me to write music for a movie, man." I said, "What should I do?" And I was looking for some pearls of wisdom. And he said, "Trust your training."
That's a word. Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of those things where either you can't stay still. My trumpet teacher used to tell me all the time. He says when you think you're standing still, you're actually moving backwards because the world is moving forward. It says you have to constantly work hard just to keep pace.
Oh.
And that's something that has stuck with me all the time. So Robin and myself now, we don't turn down crazy ideas.
No.
There's an animated thing that I may be working on. There are all different types of projects that are coming across the pike that, we just try to find time for.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't remember it, so I need Terrence to help me remember it. Dr. Cornell West, Courage.
Oh, he said jazz musicians are always stepping out on nothing, expecting something.
That's what.
Mm.
That's we. Once he said that to Terrence, and I heard it, I was like, "That's going to be our philosophy. Whatever happens, we're going to step out there and hope that there's something there, and we're just going to keep going." And it's worked, you know.
And
Yeah.
the cool thing about it is that the easy excuse is if it doesn't work, you go, man, look, that ain't my shit. I'm a jazz musician.
No.
Yes. No, but I mean, you transition. I always tell you this, like when you write a piece of music, or I look at a piece of music that you've written, you know, a scene or whatever, it's like a map. It's such a clear map, and I go, okay, I know what I want to do, and it also gives you the space to just put your thing on it, as I said, you know, and it's so clear, so beautifully written out, but it's complex at the same time. It's like Mozart. Like it looks like, oh, okay, that's easy to sing. And then you open your mouth and you're like,
No,
you know,
you've never gone. You've never done that.
Like,
Come on.
No.
y'all haven't heard that in practice room. I'm just saying. The stuff that goes in the practice room is very different than the stuff that goes on, you know, somebody's playing.
But that speaks to another thing. You're always prepared.
Yeah.
What's the definition of luck? When preparation meets opportunity.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I had a boxing coach who was a kickboxing champion, right? And he would always tell me, he said, man, I don't get the opportunities that the other people get. He said, so I had to stay in shape year round because I never knew when the fights were coming along.
Mm-hmm.
The fights would be scheduled 6 months in advance, a year in advance. He said that didn't happen. He said I would get a call and say, hey man, next month I need you to fight this guy. And that's when, so that's been something that has stuck with me too. Always be prepared. Always do your homework. And when you have downtime, that's when you do more research.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time, right?
Yeah, like now, for sure.
Like working with you guys, man, was such a godsend for me because when I did Champion, man, working with Denise, working with Arthur,
yes, and Bob,
man,
Oh,
Bob,
isn't that something?
Man, let me tell you something.
Bob.
Bob was so essential because I walked into that first workshop scared to death, and he just like basically grabbed me by the hand and just made me feel so comfortable. And he would hang around me and it wasn't anything that he was doing specifically. He was just being matter of fact about everything. You know what I mean? And it just calms me down. The same way Jim is.
Yes.
Jim's the same way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all of those guys and then working with you guys was just like an immense.
Some of them are here, so you have to say Brittany's here. And
oh,
Markel.
okay. What's happening? It was like a crash course in how to do this. And let me tell you something. I'm glad Brittany and
Markel's
here.
Hey, Markel.
Here.
Okay, for those who don't know those people there, those are some of the most unassuming people because they're just regular folk who sing their ass off.
Okay, tell it.
Man, because I never forget that day when we did that thing for the kid, and it had those complex harmonies for the vocalists.
Yes.
Those same things. And Anna and Brittany and all of them, Ticia and all. When they were there just talking before the rehearsal, just hanging out, being girlfriends. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Man, when they started to sing, Lord have mercy.
They poured out. Huh?
Oh
gosh!
I made him do it. Oh, I guess I'm spilling it now. I made him do another take so I could record it.
You did.
Yeah. I was like, hey man, can I hit just one more? Yeah, because I something I want to check out. I just want to check out this one thing. But I had to listen. I played
Terrence
it for Robin.
Terrence was sending me recordings from the workshop. He was like, oh my God. You got to hear it from rehearsals.
Yes. And the beautiful thing about it was everybody was just cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that to me was such a magical experience in my life because we were all on the same page.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing about these projects that I love. You know, we're all reaching forward. We're all trying to expand. We're all leaving our comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To create something that's powerful for other people to experience. Because let me tell you something, like you said earlier about the characters, there's also an underserved patron base. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Who are looking for these stories. When you guys did Champion, I don't know if I ever told you this. When you guys did Champion in New Orleans, you know all of the craziness we went through with people not wanting to give up their seats in the front row and certain wanting to come. Well, that's okay because you guys showed out and we had damn near packed house anyway, right? And
You should explain after.
and then I'll never forget it, man. There was this African American gentleman. He was about 70 years old. He walked over to me, man, and he grabbed my hand and he said, "Man, if this is opera, I'll come."
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was beautiful. So we have to say though, it wasn't just that they wouldn't give up their front seats. You know the story.
Yeah, I do, but they don't.
Yeah, for your audience that doesn't know the story, when we brought Champion to New Orleans, you know, it's the South. You know, as progressive as New Orleans is in other ways, it's still the South. So there were 5 reasons that we didn't get great support, even though we had packed houses in the balconies and on the first tier, not in the orchestra seats. The orchestra seats were largely empty because the patrons of the New Orleans Opera said 5 things. 1, they didn't want to see an opera written by a Black composer. 2, they didn't want to see an opera about a gay opera. They called it a gay opera. They didn't want to see an opera about boxing. They didn't want to see an opera about a modern opera. You know, they only wanted the standards. And what was the 5th thing?
I stopped
yeah, we stopped listening.
I know you.
So all of the patrons from, and I'm calling them out because I should, and they deserve the shame, but all of the patrons, a lot of the patrons from New Orleans Opera, instead of selling their seats back to the box office so that we could have a full house and that it would look beautiful and supportive, they held on to their seats and didn't show up to support us. And you know what? We could care less. We had a most amazing performance.
That was one of the most amazing performances of the opera. And I'll never forget because we were all on the same page. You remember we were here at the house the night before the matinee, and we were all having a conversation about where we've all come from, what it represents for everybody, and how we have to turn the tide. And I'll never forget, man, going out for that curtain call. That curtain call was probably one of the most emotional for me.
That's right.
Because I saw Arthur in tears.
Yeah.
Backstage.
Ooh.
He was in tears backstage before he came out. And he gave me a hug backstage and then he walked out. And then I came out after him. And I've never felt such a sense of pride of being around people who were performing at the highest level of their craft.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing that was like beautiful about it was people. There were so many naysayers. You know, about what was going on.
Yeah.
But none of them could criticize what had happened, and the word got around to a lot of folks in the city what you guys did.
Yeah.
I was so thankful to y'all.
Yeah.
Because there was a certain person in that production who even turned around and got the chorus to start clapping. They weren't clapping right. He turned around and said, "Get your energy up. Come on, let's go."
Who was that?
I saw you turn around like, what is she doing? And then you told me later on.
Yeah.
Tolerate foolishness. I can't get it together.
But you know, the mistake that they made, the mistake that company made, New Orleans Opera made, is that they thought that the importance was the performance. And it was. I'm not going to take anything away from the performances. There's nothing to take away. You guys were brilliant. What they didn't count on was the camaraderie. and the determination that we were going to succeed, they weren't as important as they thought they were.
Yes.
We're going to succeed regardless of what they did.
And let me just tell you this too. And this should be the learning experience for everybody in our business, you know, when these stories are told like this, because it's not just Champion. Like you said, there's so many other stories to be told. Mm-hmm. There were people in that audience that I know have never been to opera.
Yeah.
Never been in that theater. Some of them were friends of mine. One of them I know had to borrow a jacket to come to the show. Mm-hmm. Felt a need
support.
To be
they wanted to support us.
And then they were so proud about everything that you guys did. One of them was another boxing coach, or the same boxing coach I was telling you. Mm-hmm. And when I went to his gym just to hang out, he kept telling everybody about you guys, everything. He said, man, you had to be there. You wasn't there? You didn't know about it?
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
That made me feel good.
Yeah.
That we gave something to a group of people that made them feel proud.
Yeah.
That they experienced. And I'm glad it was you guys.
Yeah.
Doing it, because man, I don't know what got into y'all that day. But
that was incredible.
We showed out, didn't we? Aubrey.
Aaron, though, do you remember this? And this was another thing that we didn't figure on, but I saw it happening right when I was coming in. So Louisiana has tax credits for films and television shows. So a ton of films and television shows get, filmed down here, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So on the day of Champion,
right.
There were members from Claus. Do you know that show, Claus?
Yes.
Claus there. Queen Sugar, NCIS, New Orleans. It was crazy. So I walked out, and here all these people that were not New Orleanians, but had heard about the opera and had an off day of shooting. And it was like Hollywood was just coming in. And at that moment, I felt so overjoyed, like no one could keep us down. Look at this. We didn't even bank on this.
Right. That's incredible.
It was really wonderful. It's the camaraderie.
The camaraderie. And I'm so glad you mentioned it. I had just had a conversation with my agent yesterday about, business stuff or whatever. And we were talking about, well, she has this series that she's starting for her agency or whatever. And come on in the room, as they say. Hey, hey, girl, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's just
good.
Apple pie.
Oh, I made an apple pie. That's why we were late joining in. Sorry about
that. That's okay. I want a piece.
The kitchen if you want some.
But she was talking about how she came to the performance of Fire. And she said that thing that you guys had on that stage, the energy, the camaraderie that came off of that stage in that theater, she said that doesn't happen anywhere else.
I'm not even in the business, and I felt that.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I'd never been on a movie production where the cast just hung out with each other all the time. I mean, it was the damnedest thing to see.
And then came for Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes, right. I was very.
But these guys would be around each other and have rehearsal all day, and then they say, "Well, where are we going to go eat?" And then we go out and eat, and then say, "Okay, but where are we going to go drink?"
Yes, we're not going to name anybody. Usual suspects: Brittany, Ticia.
And look, I'm getting ready to say. And there was one responsible person who would hang out to a certain hour and go, I got to get up and be tight tomorrow. I'm going home.
But you know what? And people always say, "Oh, you don't hang out. And I do. And my friends know I.
She hangs out. You just got to catch her when she ain't working.
Timing is everything.
Cheers! I'm not working. That. No, but I knew the magnitude of the moment, of the piece that we were presenting, of Charles's story being told, being a part of it from the beginning it was the gift that I didn't even expect. I didn't even expect any of the outcome that came from that. And I remember Robin saying to me, because I was struggling a little bit. This is even before we went into production. You were. I think you had just maybe finished the opera. You were scoring it or whatever, and I was sort of carrying some burdens and some weight from my experience in business. As I'm a little bit older than, just a tear older than most of the singers that were cast in Fire or whatever. And I just been carrying some stuff and I was struggling a little bit. And Robin looked at me in my eye and she's like, you got to let that go. You got to let it go and you got to focus on this. This is new. This is fresh from here on now.
Yeah.
This is where it starts. And that meant so much to me because no one has ever spoken to me like in that way. And I think partly it's because I've never felt comfortable enough to always express and say, what I'm really feeling, because as an artist, you can't really say. People don't want to hear that part. They just want you to get out and
they'll use it as the wrong person will use it as a weakness against you.
Exactly.
So you really have to, pick and choose who you can share with, which is a shame because for me, I always want to have, when I'm in a working relationship or partnership, honesty is going to what kicks everything to the next level. I go back to Opera Theater St. Louis, I've never felt so nurtured, like step by step, Paul Kilmer. All right, Robin, here's the contract. And I'm like, okay. He goes, if you need to take some time with it, I'm like, I do.
Yes.
I've never seen one of these before.
Right. Okay, right. Because it's different, right?
Yeah, that was my first opera contract. And then you have Tim O'Leary, who was like, well, what do you need in terms of workshops? We want to support you. And who do you want to work with? And it was just the most incredible thing. Nicole, again, in development. Well, do you think that, you could do this or we could do this, and audience? And, it was just such a beautiful experience. But let me tell you what that's done. Ooh. That beautiful experience.
Spoiled it for everybody else.
Now when I go to other companies and they're like, oh, well, but we can only, I'm like, oh, time out. If you want this opera, this is the way we've done it successfully at this opera company, and this is the template.
Yeah.
If you can't do this template, I'm fine with that. Not everyone can do what everyone else can do. It doesn't matter, right?
Right.
But don't say you want exactly what was at Opera Theater St. Louis, and you're not going to give me the same tools that Opera Theater St. Louis gave me.
Right.
That's just plain.
But I got to tell you this
real
too.
truth.
I got to tell you this, Karen. Part of what Robin was telling you is what she used to tell everybody that came to work in her office. She used to tell them, because people would come and they want to come to the Grammys, they want to do all of the glamorous stuff. Robin used to tell them, as soon as they signed on, listen, you got to take the crunchy with the smoothie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be here, you got to take the crunchy with the smoothie.
Yeah.
And keep work. And listen, let me tell you something else too. The other thing too, I go by something a famous actor told me a long time ago. He said, man, you got to get that smell off you. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, when you're talking to somebody and you have a conversation with them and they're on the phone and they can smell your anxiety. Smell your fear.
Yeah.
They can smell your wanting, right?
Yes.
Says you got to get that off you.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And once you shed that, it frees you, and you're actually more in control than you think you would be.
Yeah.
Right. I felt that. It really changed from then on. I'm not the same artist that I was before you said this to me. And I have to be perfectly honest. And, we're families, have to but it really does. Every time I feel like that thing is coming up in me, I go, nope. And it helped me when I went to the Met, when I was singing in Porgy or whatever, because I had a very challenging experience the time I was there before. And I felt that thing. And I had talked to myself before I walked in that door the first day of rehearsal.
Yeah.
That you got to get down. And at the stage, I left it at the stage door and I walked through, and it was.
You did your thing.
Thank you. It was meant so much for you to be there. I mean, seriously. It really
it was great to see all of y'all on that stage, doing that, but the thing that going back to what we were just talking about, I think the thing that was always one of the most admirable traits about you that I love is your concern for the other artists.
Yeah.
You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? It's like, it's all, listen, we all struggling out here. This ain't a cakewalk. You know what I'm saying? It's not. And some people may think it's easy because we may make it look like it's easy, but it's not. And to watch you deal with Brittany and TC and all of the other ones, but Brittany, I'm calling you out.
Butterfly, our unicorn.
But you know
I
what?
love my little unicorn.
But you know what, man? I loved every minute of it. I never forget when we did that. We had that I forgot what you call it. We did like a master class for the public one night.
Oh, that okay.
And they had the understudies sing.
Yes, the forum.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Nick is on here.
Who?
Nick is on, yeah.
and then you guys got up and you sang that thing that you made up for the end of the production.
Sometimes you got to leave it on the road.
Yeah.
That thing gives me chills every time I hear it because it's those trained voices that haven't forgotten where they come from.
Yeah.
Every time I hear that, that's what I feel.
Yeah, you took everyone to church on that. That was
my
just,
God.
I wrote that's now part of the contract for Fire.
That's it has to be. Come on.
It has to be.
Come on. Yeah.
It's not in the libretto, but it's got to be sung.
Yes, exactly.
Markel will lead it.
Oh, exactly.
Come on, Markel. He's on here too.
I know he's on there. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, Nicholas. How are you doing, Nick? That's so nice.
I told him we have to have a Fire reunion. We definitely have to have a Fire reunion.
Nice.
Well, Nick was here for Thanksgiving.
Nick came for Thanksgiving. Oh my gosh, we had such a good time.
We know y'all did. I was looking on Facebook and I was like, no.
And man, they started to sing.
Oh wow!
And it got emotional in here, man.
I'm sure they did. Oh, I know, and that's the thing about. I always talk about my friend Kenneth Overton. You met him in
Oh yeah.
He's
he's here too.
Yeah, Ken's here. We went to high school together, so we go way back. But we were talking about. He's going with me to speak on another panel about racial diversity and gender diversity in opera, blah, blah, blah. But we were talking about the majesty of the Black voice. Oh. And you can't put it in a box and you can't categorize it because it can do so many different things. I mean, and so many different cross genres and just, it's a brilliant thing, And
that was a beautiful about the conversation we had that night that I had with you and Arthur. You remember? We were talking about that because I was just amazed at what you guys go through in terms of growing up, singing in the church, and then learning to have someone help you train your voice and for them to tell you to throw away everything you did growing up singing in the church was a ludicrous notion to me because in jazz, we embrace all of that stuff,
Yeah.
Well, in all arts, though, they tell you to bring yourself, to bring your soul, to bring your core into your art, whether it's the visual arts or whether it's dance. It's interesting, though, that sometimes in classical music and in opera, they tell you to leave it at the door. And that's I love when your soul informs your expression.
Absolutely.
And it was never more apparent than when Markel, Brittany, and Ticia and
Katarina.
Katarina, when they did the church scene, the gospel.
Yes. Lift him up, Jesus. I can't wait for the world to see this opera. I cannot wait.
Well, for the Met, it's going to get extended.
Good.
It's going to get larger and a touch bit longer.
Good. It should. I mean, that libretto is incredible that Casey wrote. So.
Oh yeah.
But okay. That just means I got more work to do.
Yeah. Put that pen down, sir. Put the stuff down.
Okay.
Yes.
Definitely.
You guys want to say to our audience? They're making comments. They're just commenting. They're not asking any questions, that means they're putting it all up.
Oh, there's so many. I'm just so happy to see all the familiar names and.
Of course, Nicholas will go. Period.
I'm with Nick this season at Houston Grand Opera. They already announced it, so we're doing the Snowy Day.
Oh, right.
Wow.
We're gonna come over there. Then we have to come over there. It's Terrence feels left out. Can you refresh my drink? Thanks.
Wah, 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 wah. No, so Nick and I are going to play Ma and Pa.
Oh, I love it. Okay, well, that's so close to us, so there has to be a way. I feel like we're going to be in New Orleans for a little bit extra, So when is this happening?
It's November, December.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. So we're there we're in Houston for 6 weeks. So, I'm going to tip over to NOLA.
Oh, it's only 30 minutes away on the airplane.
I'm there. I'm there.
From what I hear, there are not many people on the planes these days. It's actually a nice ride. They say you can really stretch out and, $40 probably to get here.
Yes.
With
here. Oh my goodness. Oh, so how's LA?
I love it. I absolutely love it. Working on lots of great projects. We're working on a reboot of Perry Mason with oh gosh, why am I forgetting? Robert Downey Jr. With Robert Downey Jr. John Lithgow and Matthew Reese plays Perry Mason. So we're looking forward to that. We are also working on a Cynthia Erivo project for Nat Geo. She's doing Aretha Franklin.
So, y'all doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Our next Spike movie is coming out Memorial Day weekend. It's called The Five Bloods with Delroy Lindo and oh God, who else is in this? Oh, why am I forgetting his name? I'm horrible with names.
That's okay.
Chadwick Boseman.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So he's the topic of conversation because he's lost all that weight.
Yeah, craziness.
Yeah.
But, well, I'm sure you guys go through the same thing too for a role.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do certain things.
Yeah.
So I love LA. I think Terrence's concern is that I'm not going to want to come back to New Orleans, but I am.
Right, because that's where your main.
That's where our main house is. The girls would not let me forget, for sure.
I'm sure.
New Orleans. So tell me, I want to hear about all the great things you guys are working on.
Well, let's see. Well, because there was so many cancellations, I mean, there were a lot of concerts that I was supposed to do. A premiere of Adolphus Howell Stork was writing a piece for me. And my friend, who's a fantastic organist, we were supposed to do it at Spivey Hall in Atlanta.
Oh yeah.
And the libretto was by one of my homegirls, who's an incredible author, poet, Bianca Spriggs. And so it was cool to have one of my friends in on a project and
sure.
And to do that for her, because I think that it's always transformative when poets and authors get to hear their words sung. I feel like I've seen that sparkle in people's eyes, because I always tell younger singers, you have to lift the black notes off the white page and create something. That means lifting the words up, and letting it come out of you. And a part of that experience is for poets and authors to hear their text, with the sound, and I think it's tremendous. So anyway, I'm always down to like work with people who are my friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really an untapped thing, because people in our community, especially writers, most of them haven't heard their words sung.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And there are a lot of writers who write beautifully. You know what I mean? And I think it really lends itself to telling great stories that are unique,
Yeah.
stories that are new, stories that people can relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
you know what's great too about you mentioning the projects that you're working on. I think that one of the things that we all need to understand right now in this day and age, one of the things that we need to understand is that you may have to come out of your comfort zone a little bit, and not wait for the next opera production. You
Yes.
have to think about collaborations to make so that you can not only feed your soul, but feed your pockets.
Yes, it's true. It's
It really
definitely
is. So keep your minds open. It could be some of the greatest art comes out of this time right now because we're free to think about collaborations and there aren't taboos. There isn't someone on your shoulder saying, "Oh, you shouldn't do that." Like, a jazz musician shouldn't be going on tour with a dance company. And we did it. And, it's been phenomenal. And hopefully we'll do more of those. But you've got to keep your mind open for collaborations.
Yeah.
Another thing too that I really want to express to people is that, sometimes you got to make your own way.
Yeah.
I feel blessed that I've gotten to the point where I've had this opportunity to work with great vocalists like yourself and great opera companies, like Opera Theater St. Louis and Michigan, all these other places. But sometimes you have to make a way and create the art so people can get a chance to experience what it is that you do. And that's one of the things, like with your talent, your voice, all of those voices that were in Fire. That's one of the things that I get emotional about a little bit because I've seen you guys off stage. I've seen you when you're just hanging out, having a good time singing, and I've seen the breadth of your musical vocabulary. And to exist in this other world, it's almost as if you have to narrow that down, and I think that is such a shame.
Yes.
But now could be the time to expand it, lift it up.
Well, I mean, I'm going to do whatever I can on my part to create parts and roles for people that can do that. But I'm just one person, so I'm just trying to encourage all of the young people, all of the young writers, all of the people who are listening to this. Don't be afraid to step out there. Don't be afraid, because I know I was. But when I started working with vocalists and started to understand how the voice worked, then it really helped me. Like doing Champion really helped me to write the role for Karen, in Fire, because I remember how her voice worked in Champion when she did it in San Francisco. So when there were certain things that I wanted to happen, I knew that I needed. And then, of course, during the rehearsals, Karen kept telling me, "Look, don't keep me up there now."
I always tried it first. I said, let me try it. And I was like, okay, after 3 weeks of trying, of doing it, I don't know if it's going to happen. I've never said no off the bat. I think I text you like,
Yeah, I need to take a breath somewhere, goddamn.
I remember you told me, listen, you'll make it work. My job. I'm like, Terence, people have to understand. And we're like, you'll figure it out. I love you for it. I love you though.
Oh man, no. But I think that, listen, there's so many talented writers out there. I was on this panel discussion about opera one time here in New Orleans. It was a radio podcast, and I don't even know who the artists were, man, but there were some young people that did an opera, whether I think the
hip hop.
the woman who's producing it had a brother who produced hip hop, and
He was a choreographer or something.
And they produced this opera that was amazing. It was killing because it didn't sound like somebody just put a hip hop beat and put an opera voice on top. It wasn't that.
Right.
It was like, no, it was like really composed. And there were moments where the hip hop thing wasn't there and it was just purely just a voice. And then there were moments where it came, and it blew me away. But it opened my mind to say, okay, you know what? We've allowed the majesty and the greatness of this opera to intimidate us to the point where we think there can't be anything else.
Right. Absolutely.
You know? And that's not true. That is totally not true. You know, there's other ways to kind of broaden this
and stories.
Experience.
Yeah, I mean, to say that opera has to be limited to the, you know, I don't know how many, you know, I'm going to call them standards because in jazz they would be standards, right?
Of course, yes.
Classics, you know, I don't know how many classics there are in opera, but at a certain point, new stories and new people need to tell stories.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And sometimes I think, and that's not just in opera, it's in a lot of art forms, you know.
Mhm.
People think that those that are the heads of maybe, you know, opera companies or film companies or dance companies, that they really have ideas, and sometimes they don't. So
Yeah.
I think now is a fantastic opportunity to like take folks your ideas.
Yes.
If they like them, great. It's wonderful. They like them. If
Right.
they don't, well, then guess what? You're exactly where you are now, and it's no big deal.
And if they don't like them, that doesn't mean the idea
That it's not
is
valid.
worthless.
That's right.
You know,
Right.
it just means that person
doesn't get it.
You know,
Yeah.
because listen, when I first brought the idea of a boxing opera to Opera Theater St. Louis, it wasn't accepted at first. It wasn't.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
No. But to their credit, when we had a conversation about what the real story is about, a redemption.
And once we wrote the treatment, once they saw, I mean, look, quite honestly, if you were to tell anyone, oh, I've got an opera I want to do about boxing, you're like,
right.
But once we wrote the treatment and once we explained Emile's humanity and how that humanity should be in all of us, the larger picture, the bigger story that really connects us and should ground us in this world, they were right on it. Like never missed a beat after that.
And here's the thing, like coming from a composer's point of view, nobody loves La Boheme more than me. I love La Boheme. I mean, I had to stop listening to it because I was listening to it every day, you know? But when I watched the production, any production of it, from a composer's point of view, I look at it and I go, wow, that's a magnificent piece of art that was created about that moment in our history.
Yes.
Right? That's great. And I'm glad it's withstanding the test of time.
Sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But we have our own stories to tell.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the point for me. It's like, okay, that's great. And I'm not taking anything away from that, because if it wasn't for that, honestly, Carmen and all of those great that I used to hear as a kid when my dad was playing them, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be doing this, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But we can't relegate ourselves to the past.
Yeah. Yeah. We got to keep moving forward.
Yeah. A lot of great stories to tell.
Yeah.
And here's the beautiful thing about it. Not only a lot of great stories to tell, but beautiful voices with character and uniqueness to tell the stories.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about that, Terence, and I was I think this is like after Champion in San Francisco, and I was saying, like, we need you, so many of us need you to be able to so that we have the opportunities, you know. So there's quite a bit of us who get to sing standard repertoire, and you know, the even fewer of us who get to that top level, you know, of career. But there's so many artists and singers who never get the opportunities because they don't get chosen for that. And so when we get to have our stories told, you have to hire them, right? You can't hire anyone else to sing, to tell our stories. And so we have to keep flooding, like you said, bringing in other composers, bringing in, other directors of color, other, choreographers, to come in and fill out these stories. And so it's just important, it's definitely shaped and formed the way I sing, go back and sing like Verdi, Puccini, Strauss, like singing modern things, and how I approach standard repertoire definitely changed after I started singing more new works, particularly after Champion, and then doing Hannibal's piece, I'm doing one of his other pieces. Actually, he wrote a piece and I got to do that. And then one of the other pieces I'm doing next season. And like, it just it's because it's so attached to who I am. So I'm like, oh, I know that feeling. I know that space. Then I just take that thing into the next thing that I have to do. And so it's like a license to be you,
Exactly. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about this too, as a result of what you guys did in Champion and Fire, right? Word got around, and there are more young musicians who want to write opera now.
Wow.
So we have to find ways of pairing them with talented people like yourself, like A-list people like yourself, to create new works.
Absolutely.
Because the interest is out there right now. It's definitely out there right now. Jim was telling me, that he gets calls every month from people interested in writing opera.
Wow.
This is coming from jazz musicians.
Wow. Well, the job done then, right? Mission accomplished, I often think about other talents. When I went through the 2008 crisis, I was like kind of on my ascent, singing in all these amazing houses. And then 2008 happened and the bottom fell out. And like I lost a lot of work, and I had just gotten married and moved back to California. And so I wasn't in the hub of everything. I wasn't in Philly, I wasn't in New York. And I lost a lot of work. And then, I had an agent in Europe and we split ways and everything. And then and I had nothing. And I was sitting on my couch at home and I was just like, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I just didn't know what to do. And what I just started doing was just like warming up a little bit, singing the scale here and there. But what I did was push myself to try things that I was not allowed to do because they say, oh, you're too young, or, that's not your voice type or whatever. With no teacher, no coach, no police, as I say, no police officers telling you what you can and can't do in your career. I got the chance to push myself artistically and try different things and try different genres. And it was so freeing, and then when the tide turned and things started happening, I was ready to go into auditions and kind of be a new person, because that's what you have to do, like reinvent yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But isn't that beautiful how the universe works?
True.
Isn't that beautiful how God works? You don't know what's in front of you. You don't know.
But it goes back to courage. But you took the step with belief that you would land on something.
Yes, exactly. Because that's the one thing I can stand on, is that I know that I have a gift. I know that I have a gift, and I know that my gift is special. I mean, and I stand by that. It's not that it's better than somebody or I'm the top. No, but I know that my thing.
Oh, of course.
I have something to say. And so no matter what, even if someone says no, all the no's that you get, you still have to understand that rooted in the belief that you have something special and that you have to say it, right?
And if anybody challenge you on it, tell them to come see me.
Listen.
Tell them to come see me. Email,
I know.
No, it's just amazing how the universe works, man. How God works and all of this stuff. Of laying these things before you. You never know what's coming down the pike. You just got to keep truth and honesty in your heart about what it is you believe in, and keep working hard. But you may be going through this so you can come out on the other side and help other people heal.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Help other people deal with their situations. And if you don't have a situation to help you relate, then you may not be able to touch anybody. So we've all gone through it. We've had our struggles in this business. We had our struggles just in life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't know when that turning point comes, and all of a sudden you look around, and next thing you know, you're looking back at everything that you've done.
Yes. Oof.
With smiles instead of tears.
Absolutely. And sometimes when you're going through it, even the good stuff, you don't have time to do that until the bottom falls out, right? And then you look back, oh, crap, I did this, I did that, or I touched this person, or I got to travel here, I got to meet these people, and it's a trip. Life is something else, isn't it?
There have been moments in our life where we've been going through it at the same time that we were going through it. You know what I mean? It's like on the one level at home, there was just dealing with family stuff, just life in general. It could be rough, but on the other side of it too, people don't see that, and they just see this public thing that you are, and they go, "Oh man, I would really love to have that," but they don't understand that all of this stuff is connected.
It is.
It's all connected. So that's why for me, I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. Everything that you guys have done, I enjoyed the hell out of y'all doing Fire. Watching y'all, laughing and giggling with y'all, eating stuff I ain't supposed to be eating at the time we was eating it.
Yes, we did a lot of that.
Uber Eats made a lot of money off of us that entire
we have
production.
to ask Nick and Markel, how many pizzas at like 1 o'clock in the morning did we order? That was just craziness at a certain time. I don't know if they're still on.
It was just a moment.
Oh my gosh.
It was a moment in time that was beautiful because, oh man, I'm drawing a blank on the little kid's name.
The boys. The boys? The brothers?
Yes.
I can't. But he was so sweet, man. I'll never forget. We were going through tech, right? And I'm sitting there just in the back, just watching everything. And he came up to me. You guys are taking a break.
Jeremy.
And Jeremy comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Terrence." I go, "Hey, man, how you doing?" He said, "You like Snickers?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Here." That little kid was amazing. I'll never forget the day that he auditioned, right? Because when he walked through the room, he had so much personality, right? Just the way he was relating to people. I started biting my nails and crossing my fingers. I was like, "Please be able to sing. Please.
Please be the one.
Please be able to
Please
sing."
be the one.
And when they took him over to the piano and they were playing things for him to sing, and he was singing them right back. And then I found out he learned the entire opera in a week.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah.
No, not in a week.
Yeah. In a week. He learned the entire opera. And that little kid was amazing.
He was amazing. He embarrassed all of us on the first day. I was like, "Oh, really?" He was ready, honey. He was ready on the first day.
Yeah. Because was he off book by then, or was he still on book?
No, he was off a book first day one.
No
and
kidding.
Kind of holding him back a little bit. And so he kind of like did his thing, and we were all like, "Okay, kid," He was, and then his brother, and then all the boys in the show. I mean, I don't do kids anyway, but they were lovely.
How much fun were they at the closing party when we were at the restaurant and they were singing, and then their mom broke out in song. Do you remember that? She sang the African traditional song, and we were like, "What the heck?" Wow. That was surreal. We had so many surreal experiences.
I don't know if you heard
that production.
I don't know if you heard the story about her mom during the course of the production.
No.
About she sat next to a guy, and she had come to one of the performances, and this guy was just talking to her. Saw that she was crying because she was just so proud of her son.
Yeah.
She started talking to him. She told him who she was. the guy bought her tickets for the rest of the run.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. He saw that she was really reacting and responding to the kids. So he asked your connection. And she's like, those are my sons.
Right. And she got to see that's those angels, right? Those angels that come and just take care of you. Oh.
You guys were fantastic, man.
Yeah.
You guys were
We'll never forget it.
Yeah.
We should have been videotaped. Well, maybe some of our debauchery could not have been videotaped.
I was about to say, no, we didn't want the videotape running on
We should have recorded some of it for memories. We should have had some of
whoever was there. Whoever didn't, well, you weren't there.
Some of these comments are hilarious. I said, so how many pizzas did we go through? Markel goes, so many, and bags of nuggets.
Oh, yes, that's right. We
remember they did like a McDonald's run at like 2:00 in the morning or something.
You know what I love? You know what I love? I ain't gonna lie, I ain't got no shame in my game. I love the fact that I went to a barbecue joint with some opera singers. That made my day. Sitting there talking about, I'll have the brisket and some corn.
We are regular people. We are regular people. We are not like.
Nicholas said the White Castle.
Oh my God.
With the green face.
Oh my gosh.
This was so much fun. But what about Karen, what about Aubrey's party, the cookout? We thought we were just going in that little neighborhood and sit out and commune.
It was
we ended up having such a party. Aubrey was like, okay, I think we need to like quiet down just a little bit. We got to shut it down a little bit. We're in this exclusive neighborhood and we're a little bit loud.
A little bit
loud. The one for me was we were at the hotel hanging out in the back, and they had the house band up there singing. And Markel was nailing it. Markel was on. I was like, bro, you need to go up there and grab the mic. Say, give me that mic.
That was so much fun.
Oh my God.
Oh, we had such a ball. Absolutely.
It was. And you guys were so good to us. I don't think I paid for a meal or a drink or nothing. You guys were so good to us in so many ways. I mean,
not allowed. Not allowed.
We were just trying to pay you back for what you guys were doing for us.
Pay it back, pay it forward.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
I'm inviting us onto your next down the line. You need to have us back because I love doing this with you. I love seeing you. I love talking to you, and I love seeing everyone.
Oh
wow. Oh gosh.
Nina, they don't know. Nina, they haven't. Karen has experienced it.
Karen has experienced it.
Talking about the midnight biscuits that
Listen. Robbie Still's like biscuits. Call Robin. No, those biscuits and the jam. I mean, Mike.
For those who don't know, if you hang out at our house, there becomes the bewitching hour when my wife disappears, and we'll be listening to music and having fun and drinking, and it can be anywhere from midnight to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Then all of a sudden, biscuits and jam, homemade biscuits and jam and butter appears. Holla, Nick.
You know what? I got a recipe though that I really loved. I just found it and I tried it the other day. That may have to be one of my go-tos.
Please.
Markel clap. That's so funny.
Can you share it? I promise I won't share it with anybody.
Oh, for sure. No. It's a biscuit from James Beard. You know, James Beard is the award-winning author of cookbooks and chef.
Yeah.
And I'll just tell you this. Instead of cutting up your butter into your flour and your baking powder, right, and everything, you do everything and you leave the butter out. The butter, you melt it in a pan. And cut your dough while it's still raw. You sink each dough biscuit into the butter, the melted butter. You pop them on a pan 2 inches apart. You run them in the oven at 425. They come out so huge.
Yeah.
And just soaked with butter, but in a really nice kind of way.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm
Make a brother go, ooh yeah.
Oh yeah. No, No, I'm
How does he end up with my drink? He's
Oh.
like ending up with my
I'm
drink.
sorry.
really got a drink.
I'm sorry. Mine was just running low.
That's
Oh,
okay.
gosh. I will send out the recipe. It's a good one.
Do. And look what I don't know if you can see behind me.
Oh, your New Orleans. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
In their dining room. And
Oh,
Nice.
about you guys every day. Every day I think about you guys because I get to see my New Orleans.
nice.
Nice.
And so
Really
you guys are always with us all the time. And I love you so much, so much. I can't express how much I love you and how much
Oh,
you guys.
Oh man, I miss you guys.
we miss you all.
Miss you.
We're going to have to do this again. Maybe we have to have a side Zoom with Markel and with Nick and Tia and everybody. We'll do
Yes.
a Zoom.
So when we find a vaccine, we're gonna have a Thanksgiving and everybody get the vaccine shot before they come in the house.
Right? You need to have the sensor. The more the thing like, what's your temperature? What's your temperature? In here. Okay. Yes, for sure. That's a date. We're gonna do it.
Oh,
We gotta do it.
We had such a good time.
Yes. And thank you for coming on. Yes, you're gonna come on again. Yes, yes.
Oh,
Okay,
please.
good. Thank you.
Yes.
I invited myself. Cheers,
Yes.
guys. Cheers to everyone.
All right.
Everybody.
Love
And
you guys.
Cece,
Love you
she
guys.
got next. Cece got next.
Okay, sounds good. I'll tell her. Take care, you guys. Bye.
Love you. Bye.